Helen, and I'm the president of STEP San Diego. And thank you so much for attending the meeting today. I know there's folks from San Diego, but also folks from around the world, Cayman, the UK, Canada, etc. It's really exciting because STEP really is a global global place, a global group, and this is a wonderful way for folks to get together and learn more about STEP, and also discuss the advantages of membership at STEP. For those of you who are with the STEP San Diego group, I wanted to introduce you to Peter Merrick. He's our newest board member. Roberta Ruddy did resign this year, but for a wonderful reason. She actually retired very, very young and is now in North Carolina with her family. So we wish her the very, very best. And so we did have a vacancy, and Peter was gracious enough to join our board. So you should be hearing more from him on the STEP San Diego side. But again, we welcome everyone. One of the great things about virtual events is that folks can join from anywhere, and we're just really excited to have you. And Peter, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Helen, and I'd like to welcome everyone of the STEP community from around the world. This is a real honor. We have Mark Wally, who's the international CEO. Before I introduce Mark, I just want to share with you the value of STEP. I first became a STEP member in the early 2000s, and the way it came about is when I was a university instructor in Toronto. I started researching for my first textbook. And one thing that I found really interesting was every textbook that I received from a whole slew of different publishers, it didn't matter whether someone was a JD, a CPA, a CLU, a CFP, a CFA, they all had the TEP behind the name. And I wanted to know more about this organization, and I did. And I was a writer for two LexisNexis publications, Lawyers Weekly and The Bottom Line for Accountants. And I covered those conferences for about 15 years. And I have to share with you the level of professionalism and the information that was provided in the different reports or essays that people would provide on different topics was top notch. And I met people throughout the world, and that is the key, because as I reestablished myself in San Diego from Toronto, going to STEP here has been the most helpful thing for me personally and professionally. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to introduce Mark Wally, who's our international CEO of STEP International. He's going to be talking about STEP and also talking about the STEP community, and especially how STEP has helped us during this new time where we're not able to fly, or it's more difficult to communicate in old ways, and how STEP has helped our membership throughout the world. And again, one thing I will share with you is STEP is the largest international organization for trust and estate practitioners, and that would be lawyers, CPAs, accountants, insurance individuals, fiduciaries, you name it, anybody who's dealing with the ultra wealthy, especially globally. Outside of the United States, this organization, it's the organization that everyone belongs to. So I'd like to introduce to STEP members within STEP San Diego and America. I'd like to introduce you, and to our Canadian friends and UK friends and friends from around the world, Mark Wally. Mark, to you.
Peter, thank you very much, and very pleased to be joining you all here and doing my best to channel the San Diego vibe. I started my day, virtually at least, in Cape Town, South Africa at their conference. That was the early shift, and this is the late shift for me, based in London. So really pleased to be speaking with you. And just by way of background, I've been with STEP for 2 years and just over 2 years now as CEO. My journey to this position is a bit interesting. So I spent my first 25 years with Barclays, and latterly in their wealth management division. and went on from there and joined a consultancy business that was actually based up in Los Angeles. So I was running the UK, Europe and Middle East business for them, all about sales and service culture change in wealth management businesses. From there, I moved to work for what had been my professional body, the Chartered Institute of Bankers in the UK. And after a while moved on to work for the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. That truly global body, 100 countries represented, something like 140,000 members, and I was looking after their UK, Europe, Middle East and Africa regions. So came to STEP a couple of years ago, and it was really that combination of all those experiences, and particularly the wealth management part and the experience in professional bodies, that brought me to STEP. And I'm just going to run through a bit of a slide deck with you. So I'm going to just put some slides on screen. Bear with me while I'm just clicking the right buttons for that. So here we go. And I just noticed a few pictures there, actually. I think William, I'm not sure whether that's maybe Santa Monica in your background, or maybe it was Brighton in the UK, but on my money is somewhere on your West Coast. Michael, COO in STEP Canada, I saw you there in your office in Toronto. So just a quick hi to you two. And let's move on through the presentation. So kind of where are we? What do we do? Well, we've got 22,000 members across 104 countries, 110 branches and chapters. China is our latest branch. Our TEPs are internationally recognized experts in their field. They've got real proven qualifications and experience, and it's qualifications and experience that provides confidence to the families which they're dealing with. And that confidence is underpinned by the standards that we set, the training and education that we provide to our members, and then making sure that we uphold those standards. 2021 is an important year for STEP. It's our 30th anniversary. Our members have achieved huge amounts across those 30 years, building a really, truly global network of trust and estates experts. And this year, we're going to celebrate our past, our present, and our future. We're going to launch campaigns to increase awareness of STEP amongst the policymakers, the regulators, media, and the public. And that, in turn, should mean greater value for you and your STEP membership. So, how are we going to do that? Well, we think there are a number of steps as to how we grow as an organisation, and these steps actually build on the themes in our previous strategy, the Your STEP strategy from 2016, and really ensure that we're fit for our current environment, and then represent the really diverse needs of our membership, and then continue to adapt and evolve and ensure our ongoing relevance. So the first part of this is about impactful thought leadership. It really demonstrates our capability and credibility and gives people a reason to engage with us. And we influence through the deep expertise of you, our members, and through collaboration with others. That thought leadership helps us inspire trust and confidence. Families are confident that when they engage with a STEP member, they'll get the best advice, because globally, our lawmakers, our regulators trust us to set and uphold high standards for the profession. And that results in market respect and demand for our professionals and our professional standards and qualifications. So highly talented individuals choose to qualify, they commit to lifelong learning with us and to keep working to the standards. And that means we've got a growing number of professionals. And the more we're sought after and for our thought leadership, the more that trust grows. And this trust means that we get greater recognition for those who are STEP qualified, which in turn drives greater demand for work of our members. So that growth in membership enables us to continue to invest as an organisation and really put ourselves behind growing the whole profession. And with more resources available, we have a greater impact on society and members across the globe. So our whole strategy is based on a revised and ambitious vision that will keep us moving forwards. So you can see there, and it's really important that it's about global recognition. That's speaking to our strategic priority of raising our profile through thought leadership. We set the standard. That's all about setting the standards of education, best practice and ethics, and also being the best at what we do. And advising families across generations, that's what connects our members. That's the connection that you'll find as a member. You can look in the directory and see, is there somebody that can help me in another part of the world? And that's equally supported by an aspirant mission that sets out clearly what we do. So to inspire confidence in families planning their assets across generations, that's our why. And then setting and upholding high professional standards, informing public policy, promoting education, connecting practitioners globally to share knowledge and best practice, that's what we do. And that's all underpinned by our values. So there are guiding principles, they bind us together, and they're central to our culture as an organisation. So in community, we talk about respecting each other and valuing diversity. We work in collaboration, it's all about working together and learning from each other to find new and better ways of doing things. For integrity, we're open and honest and committed to upholding our ethical and professional standards. And continuous learning is all about us championing continued learning and development to build the knowledge and skills necessary to deal with a rapidly changing business environment, and never more so over the last 12 months. There are many challenges and opportunities for us and a few uncertainties in front of us, but we strongly believe that as a global professional body, acting in partnership with our many stakeholders, we are uniquely placed to rise to these. And we've got the vision and capability to bring about the solutions our changing world increasingly needs. So we've set ourselves a few priorities. The first has to be our education and CPD. In our surveys, our members are consistently telling us that they want STEP to focus on education and CPD, professional standards, and brand awareness of STEP, and promoting both STEP and its members. So instead of that strategy, we've come up with these 4 themes. Education and maintenance of high professional standards is at the very core of what we do and what we stand for. It's what our members expect from us, as I've said. It's why people come to us, it's why people stay with us. And our aim is that our education programs must meet the learning and development needs of practitioners right across the globe. And our objective is that our qualifications are regarded as the global benchmark for the industry. And in those parts of the world where we're already well established, that's absolutely the case. I've talked a little bit about thought leadership already, and it is about an organisation being recognised as an authority in its specialist field, and its expertise really sought by policymakers, regulators, the media and other key stakeholders. And through that thought leadership, we demonstrate capability and credibility, and ultimately the increased awareness among policymakers and other stakeholders means that there is a greater value to the membership of STEP. Your services as a member are in much greater demand. So our aim is that we'll be a world leading authority on chosen topics, and that expertise will be sought out by those various stakeholders. The topics we're focusing on are trusts, and we really want to promote and educate policymakers and the public on what they are, what they do, and the value that they bring to society. It's an interesting one, this, because the work that we were doing started under the heading of rehabilitation of trusts, because we know that in many parts of the world, and particularly in the media, as soon as you start talking about trust, people immediately default to something a bit dodgy, people hiding money, and all sorts of other assumptions they make. I'm sure that some people have abused trusts in the same way that some people break the law occasionally. But actually, the vast majority of trusts are used for absolutely genuine reasons and have a real value to society, not just to the people involved directly in the trust. So we are focusing on educating policymakers and the public of what they are, what they do, and that overall value they can bring to society. The second area we're focusing on is mental capacity. It's about increasing awareness among the public on issues surrounding capacity. We want to promote STEP as the leading expert on advice for capacity issues and the legislation that goes with that. We want to become the go-to training and education and knowledge provider for finance-related advice and introducing a commonality of approach to capacity globally. The next area that we're looking to really seize ground in is digital assets. We really want to increase awareness about the need to plan for digital assets, and we need to do that both with practitioners and the public. And we need to work with the tech service providers as well on issues related to death and incapacity and really promote STEP as the expert. Our fourth area is the responsible stewardship of wealth. There are often very polarized views on what benefit wealth creation and preservation brings to wider society, and we want to make sure that that's a very balanced conversation and that we sit at the heart of that. And our fifth area is all about, it goes under the heading of modern families. So the traditional family unit, mom, pop, 2 kids and a dog, it exists. It's probably not the norm anymore. There are many descriptions, blended families, however you describe them, but we really want to help the public understand that there are complex situations, probably more complex than they realize. If they bought a holiday home in another country, suddenly there are assets to think about, and where will they be settled upon death? They might have then different tax regimes to deal with. You know all this stuff better than me, but you'll see in those 5 topics, we're really trying to seize some ground where others aren't really talking. We could have joined in on lots of other topics, and we've got a lot to say about many topics, but these are 5 areas that absolutely is at the heart of what we do. But actually there's not enough being done to raise the profile of those areas, so we're really going to see some ground there. The third of our strategic priorities is looking at markets and sectors. So our trajectory at the moment says we'll reach about 30,000 members by 2025. We want to get beyond that, and we want to do that by strengthening our position in our core markets, but also to think about entering new jurisdictions where there's great opportunities for STEP to add value. And yeah, China, it's got to be right up there. 2nd largest economy in the world, fastest growing wealth management group. It's the first generation of wealth that's going to pass, setting aside maybe things that happened several thousand years ago, because it used to be the largest economy and the economic hub of the world. But yeah, huge opportunity there. And really interestingly, and this takes me back to my days in Barclays, those that are now getting ready to pass on their wealth they've often experienced Western culture. And the reason it takes me back to my Barclays days, one of the big things I was doing in my last couple of years there was setting up arrangements bank to bank to get introductions from Chinese banks to Barclays. The students who came into the UK, and we were getting something like 30,000 students a year at the time coming into the UK. I know there's a huge number of Chinese students come into the US, to Australia and parts of Europe. But they couldn't get properly opened bank accounts. They couldn't complete the know your customer requirements of a bank at the time. So we were basically subcontracting that to the Chinese banks and getting some deposits from parents to act as guarantees on their student accounts. But that generation have been immensely successful. They were the elite. I mean, by definition, if you could afford to come and study overseas from China, you're already in a relatively elite position. So they've got huge influence, and they've got real brand connection and customer experience of the service levels that you might expect in the UK, the US, Australia. That's absolutely different to what they see at home, but they want more of it. So there's a huge opportunity there. And our fourth area is about diversifying income. We know that as an organisation, like many other membership organisations, professional membership organisations, a lot of income comes from subscription fees. Now, that's fine, but we need to think about diversifying. And our other major source across the STEP world has been events, physical conferences and events. Now, Helen, anybody else that's involved in running a chapter and has run events knows that income stream has changed dramatically over the last 12 months or so. So we've got to think about how we do that. So those are our priorities. So what is the value for members? Well, it's those three things. And 91% of members are saying that their membership is excellent or good in terms of how do they rate their membership. 83% believe that being a STEP member has benefited their career. So that's a massive number. 97% agreed that STEP membership demonstrated their commitment to high professional standards. 94% agreed that STEP membership is considered important within the industry. So that's saying that others around you really value the TEP qualification. We know that firms recruit people with the TEP qualification over those that don't have it. We know, and I see this especially as I go to conferences, whether in person in 2019 or virtually in 2020 and 2021, that there is so much business done at those conferences from people who maybe have met for the first time, but they've got trust because of the TEP designation. So there's a real strong value in our ongoing education offering and being able to keep up to date with legislation and government policies. So I want to give you a little bit of a flavour of some of the things we've been doing over the last 12 months or so. We publish a journal. We used to do that 10 times a year. We've updated that. It's now 6 times a year, but we've supplemented it with a digital channel, the STEP Journal Plus. In January of this year, as part of that thought leadership work, we published our report, The Social and Economic Benefits of Trusts. It's highlighting the really positive uses of trust globally. And we're aiming to build on that resource. We're currently collating case studies right around the world to demonstrate how trusts are used so that we can help increase public understanding and awareness. Last year, we published a report on technology and wills. It was a report from our special interest group in digital assets, talked about the use of technology and will making right around the world, including the rise and use of dispensing powers, electronic wills, remote witnessing, and audio-visual links. We switched our events to virtual. We recognised that we just weren't going to be able to meet face-to-face, that not doing so, not meeting wasn't acceptable. So we took things virtual. And we took a real lead on that. I remember talking to groups of CEOs in similar types of organizations, doing perhaps lawyers, accountants, but outside of the STEP world, even to the surveyors that I used to work with. And they were really struggling with the idea of taking things virtual, and whether there was a model in there that could work, which said, you know what, the worst thing we can do, the best thing we can do is try. And at worst, we learn a few lessons, and we've kept on learning lessons. We took everything virtual. We've done a global Congress thought leadership series. We also held our private client awards virtually this year for the first time ever. But interestingly, we had a record number of entries for those awards. So there is still absolute demand for people coming together, celebrating the successes of this industry and profession, but also a real demand for people to come together for technical content and for networking. We've launched a new website, really clear, responsive design. If you're not familiar with that new website, I'd really recommend you go and have a look. We've got a jobs board, real support mechanism for anybody who's looking for a new role or looking to employ somebody. We've had policy successes. And I think a couple of things in there that we really influenced a number of governments with the EU anti-money laundering directive, huge number of concessions that we gained based on our recommendations to them. So lots been going on, and as Peter said, that there's and what about COVID? Because we've had a good year, and then there's been COVID as well. It's been really interesting, actually. I mean, if we wind the clock back 12 months, if I'm honest, I had not got a clue what was going on or when things might get back to normal. Because do you remember back last year, we were all saying, we'll get back to normal soon, we hope. We didn't really have much inkling about the potential of second, third, fourth, fifth waves. There are a few noises about that in the background. But as we've stayed really close to all our members and surveyed, we've done some pulse surveys and got about 2,500 responses in the first survey, roughly half that in the second one. So the first one was in September. We repeated that in March of this year. And the really good news is that the profession is really positive now. Back in March, we found that 50% of practitioners saying that business is at least at the levels it was prior to the pandemic. And actually 40% are saying that they're seeing much higher activity. The biggest increases have been in the wills and probate businesses. I think the biggest difference between the September and March surveys is the significant shift in positive sentiment. So 43%, that's twice the previous number, have said that they're feeling really positive about the future of their business and the profession generally. When it comes to investing in training, most companies now are offering at least the same level of training that they were before the pandemic. The most noticeable difference for us was that they were saying, there were far less saying that it's essential training only. So they're getting back to business as usual. Survey also said many practitioners are looking forward to the return of face-to-face events. I'll sign up to that one as well. Because we've been reliant almost completely online in the past year. But virtual networking and education looks likely to retain its new popularity, and we've really noted the importance of that, and we're going to be delighted to share technology with the branches and chapters around the world to help you make that a bit easier. And there seems to be an emerging theme of technical stuff. Firms and individuals are saying, well, I'm quite happy to sit at my desk and get technical, Where I want to go out and meet people is to do the networking and yeah, do some business. So what else have we done? Well, we've continued our updates on the latest legislative developments. We've switched that whole education program online. So we're delivering a very full program of virtual events. We kept working with the policymakers. We've launched new services. We've also got a technical hub on the website. So it's changes that have happened because of COVID. So whether it's remote witnessing of wills, but there's a global, that you can sort that on a global basis as well. So if you're looking for any technical support, get yourself to the website, look for the COVID Technical Hub. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a sense of who STEP are, what we've been doing. It's really interesting as I've talk about STEP in many parts of the world. This isn't my holiday list that I'm going to share with you. I've had the fortune to visit Belgium, Australia, Guernsey, Jersey. Was up in New York. I went down to Sao Paulo for the LATAM conference, Singapore for the Asia conference. Michael and the team hosted me in Canada a couple of times. My last two business trips were in January of 2020. And 1 week I went to Switzerland, so mountains and snow. And the following week I found myself on the beach in Cayman. All of those to attend conferences, to network with all the attendees, to make presentations, but to be involved in the conferences. Now, that's great. Yeah, I love being at those types of events. It really gives me the opportunity to connect with members and understand what's valuable and important to them. And without fail at these events, the bit that they're really there for in person is the networking with other professionals from all parts of the globe who've got a shared interest and potentially have got shared clients. And those events, I mean, the smallest of those events was 150 people. But typically they're 200 plus. We got a couple that Sao Paulo, we were about 400, around 600 in Singapore, and Canada wins the prize as the biggest conference with 750. It's huge, and Peter knows this very well. Everybody who's anybody in Canada turns up in Toronto in June. This year, well, 2020, they did that virtually, and I was really pleased to be there for that too. And I know repeating that virtually this year. Cayman, the very last event that I went to physically, repeated this year as a virtual conference. And as I look down the list, virtually all of those places are planning their virtual conferences. The one place that's actually been able to stay physical is Guernsey in the Channel Islands near the UK. They're a relatively small island. They've been very fortunate. They've been able to close borders and contain the spread of COVID. There's very much a local conference, typically with guest speakers coming in. They were able to bring their guest speakers in virtually, but they were able to get 100, 150, 200 people together for their actual conference and their dinner. So they are the beacon of hope for us in the STEP world of getting back to meeting each other in person, enjoying a glass of wine and physically networking with each other. So Peter, I'm going to put my any questions up. I don't know whether you've got some questions you want to lead in with, Peter, or whether we open up to the group straight away.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you very much, Mark, for giving this this introduction to STEP. What this event is about is introducing you to STEP. And one of the great things about STEP is the fact that it's international. So for many practitioners in the estate and trust world, being able to network and being able to find out information about other jurisdictions is key, because I know that I rely on that. And it's something that many people that I know go. As Mark mentioned, one of the highlights of my year when I was in Toronto was the National STEP Conference. There were so many people there, and there was the who's who. And the amount of information, good information that was given was incredible. And this is almost at every conference. And I know people who go to conferences. I know that just recently in California, we had a big online event for STEP Orange County. And that happens every year. And I think it's very valuable that people are introduced to different things. And again, talking about the magazines, there's nothing like those magazines. The technical information that's actually provided, you can't find anywhere. And I promise, if you were to look at that, I would encourage you to look. After this event, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be sending out an email to everyone who's attended to give you more information on STEP. One of the things that is really key that I just want to impress upon you before we go and open up to questions with Mark is the designation of the TEP, the Trust and Estate Practitioner designation. What I found about that designation is it is the gold standard for trust and estate practitioners around the world. If you start looking for it for the top banks, trust companies, you're going to notice that all these individuals have it. And that's something that I discovered. And to become a TEP, many of you who have over 10 years experiences within the trust and estate practitioner world, you might be eligible to receive the TEP. And again, it is definitely the gold standard, and it looks really great behind, let's say, a JD and then a TEP or a CPA, because it shows that you happen to be very qualified with dealing with individuals who have complicated matters when it comes to estate planning, succession planning, and just planning globally, and also having the ability to reach throughout the world for expertise. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to open up for many of you who, thank you for joining us, to ask Mark questions. And one of the questions I think that I'd like to start off with is, Mark, during COVID, how have STEP members been able to communicate and get things done that in the past people would have to be face to face and they needed to, let's say, go on the ground and find? How have they been able to use the STEP membership and being a part of STEP to actually enhance their business, especially when many of us are not able to travel?
Yeah, so I think there's probably two main ways well, in fact, I'm going to extend that to three now. So just so three main ways. I think one of the first ways is through the technical hub that I talked about, the COVID technical hub. So a lot of information on there that's been coming in from the different jurisdictions around the world, and people saying, look, here's a change. We want you guys to know about it. We want our fellow members across the globe to know that something's changed here. So that's been one great way that people have been sharing changes in legislation that have come about because of COVID. The second part is actually the virtual conference and events that have been put on. Interestingly, those big events that I've talked about, most of them have seen increased numbers in a virtual world compared to a physical world. Now, there's some very obvious and clear reasons for that. Suddenly, people don't have to travel, so there's not the expense. But also, it doesn't really matter which time zone you're sat in. So if Peter had asked me to pop over to San Diego, this wouldn't be happening. Yeah, if I was having to physically come, I'd be building a whole itinerary around this meeting. Yeah, I can just put an hour in the diary and do it, and it's the same for all of you. It's much easier to connect. And if you see a topic that's really interesting and it happens to be hosted somewhere else in the US, or even up in Canada, or down in Cayman or across in Europe or even in Australia, if you can be awake at the time it's happening, you can be there at a click of a button. And the third way is through our members directory. It's available online, and in there you can search and find other TEP qualified members around the globe, and you can search by geography, by their specialisms, and we know, again through the research that we've done with our members, that people are using that resource to a huge extent. And when I talk at conferences and chatting in the breakouts, that's one of the huge values that people get, and they know that they're talking to somebody that they can trust, because the designation gives them that confidence. And it's really interesting when I think back. So STEP's been around for 30 years. I first came across STEP when I was working in wealth management with Barclays, and I was helping to run a number of our offshore banking businesses. And offshore, from that perspective, principally meant the Channel Islands, the Isle of Man, parts of Switzerland, Hong Kong, financial centres. When I was dealing with the leaders of the trust businesses there, they mostly had banking qualifications, the same one that I had, because there was nothing else for them. We fast forward to now, and all those people that I used to know in my banking days have still got their banking qualification, the one that I got, but they've also got a TEP designation, because STEP was invented to serve this profession, this industry. It came about because neither the bankers, the accountants, or the lawyers and the professional societies that look after those were doing anything for this part of the market. And it was really interesting. The very first meeting came about. There was a letter published in a journal somewhere saying, would these folks who look after these types of people be interested in getting together for a chat? And there was something like 100 responses to this letter. And out of that, STEP got born as a networking group to share best practice. And then in time became, well, actually, we need a qualification that really deals with what we do. Yes, we've got perhaps our lawyer qualification, our accountancy qualification, our banking qualification, and all those are really important. But what about the work that we do day to day? And that's where the qualifications that we provide really come in.
For questions, thank you very much, Mark. Can we, if there's any questions, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself and ask Mark your question, and then afterwards, can you mute yourself again?
This is Victor. Mark and Peter, fantastic presentation. Although I'm not in STEP, I've always viewed STEP in high regard. Peter, in terms of the future meetings in San Diego, how often do you envision these meetings taking place, or how often will these meetings be taking place, and what days and times will these meetings be taking place as well?
You know, I'm going to bring in our president of STEP San Diego, because STEP was very active in San Diego before COVID. There used to be meetings in downtown and also in North County of San Diego. So Helen, can you just share a little about that?
Yes, sharing a little bit about
how often the meetings will take place, just more details about the meetings themselves.
Sure. STEP San Diego, we always take requests for meetings. We have historically had meetings once a month, every month, going dark 2 or 3 months during the summer, and we have a couple of social events as well. So we try to, keep the process going. When the pandemic hit, we did go dark, but we are coming back up again, and we should be having virtual meetings, and then hopefully by the time fall rolls around, we'll be able to be in person, and then we'll be able to have our social events as well. The talks that we give, they are generally CLE credit available. So they do tend to be relatively technical, and we always take requests for potential speakers, for potential topics, etc. So it's a great group, and one of the great things about being a part of STEP San Diego is that there are other folks who are there both at the meetings, but then also to be able to chat with others if there are technical questions offline or via email, etc.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, sounds fantastic. I certainly know, looking at my practice and practice of a bunch of CPAs who are on this call, we're dealing with more and more international transactions. So this group is a perfect fit for, I know what the CPA community in San Diego is looking for. So thank you for setting up this call.
Well, Mark, in closing, would you like to leave some final thoughts?
Yeah, Peter, very happy to do that. And firstly, thank you to both you and Helen for setting up and facilitating the meeting today. Hopefully some of the passion that I've got for the organisation has come through as I've been talking to you. Yeah, I joined this organisation 2 years ago because I believe in what it does. I believe in what it stands for. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. And if you boil it down to, we set standards, we educate and continue to educate against those standards, and then we ensure that those standards are upheld. That's the fundamental of what we do. And we make sure that our members are connected to each other because they'll do great business together. It's just so exciting to be part of it. And I love every day of it, and the variety that it brings to me, but also to all of our members. As I said, this morning I was in Cape Town, South Africa. This afternoon, just before I go for my dinner, I'm in San Diego, in California. I mean, where's there a better job in the world than that?
Thank you very much, Mark. And just to share with many people on the call, this is an introduction for many people about STEP. And we would love to have you join our chapter at STEP San Diego. We are looking to grow our chapter and making it a very strong chapter. And I'm, as a new director, I'd like to have it become your strongest chapter, Mark. That being said, on the slide that I fumbled with at the beginning, I have STEP or USA STEP email, STEP.org. You can send an email to find out how you can become a member, or you can contact me directly. And again, there are 3 ways to become a member of STEP. One is as a student, one is someone who has some expertise but doesn't fully qualify as a full member, so they would have to do an essay route. And number 3, if you have more than 10 years experience and you have qualifications, you might qualify immediately to become a TEP, and we welcome you. And again, I want to thank everyone for joining us from around the world, and this has been great, and I look forward to participating in many more of these, and we're looking forward to having you join us. And again, thank you so much. And Mark, we really appreciate you joining us and pushing off your dinner, because Mark, it's past 6 o'clock your time, and in San Diego, we're just starting our days. So thank you so much, and everyone, thank you for joining us, and I wish you a great day, whatever time of day it is for you.